Let's get it. This is Life's Essential Ingredients with Jeff and a Mike, where we hope to inform, inspire, and transform lives, one essential ingredient at a time. Welcome to the show. Pashito, we're doing it again, and man, I like that hat. Bobbi, we are definitely sorry we did not send you one. One of us didn't get the memo on it, but we just got some new gear for what we're doing, trying to really launch our nonprofit again, C4 Leaders. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Life's Essential Ingredients, and we have some essential ingredients coming today out of Grand Lake, Colorado. I'll just say good afternoon to you, Bobbi, and let you say hello to Mike, and Mike, you say hello to Bobbi.
Hey guys, how you guys doing?
Hey Bobbi, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And sorry, me and my posture are starting to look more and more like twins. Wasn't planned.
Jealous.
Wasn't planned.
Very jealous.
Well, we'll have to get you. We've sent some gear out, and we'll see how the show goes. And I have some cool shirts that have different stories behind them. And so, yeah, we'll see what happens and get you one at the end of this thing here, Bobbi. Nice. About our guest, and we are in for a treat. Again, she's coming out of Grand Lake, Colorado, about Bobbi Kahler. First of all, you can find her at www.bobbikaher.com. And then she also has her own podcast, and Bobbi at Unyielded.net. Hopefully that's correct, but you can find her on any of the platforms. Unyielded is the title of her show. So about her: entrepreneur, writer, leader, speaker, life coach, avid athlete, resilient survivor. An entrepreneur since the age of 34, Bobbi has led workshops for thousands of people, and she has worked with some of the most recognizable brands on the planet. During that time, she has coached upwards of 3,000 people. At the heart of it all, she's a servant of anyone seeking personal growth and transformation. I love that. Both her undergrad and graduate degrees were fueled by her passion for helping others achieve personal transformation and the belief that the only thing that prevents us from achieving greatness is the belief in ourselves. She is the author of Travels of the Heart, Developing Your Inner Leader. She was a contributing author to the Amazon and New York Times best-selling book, Masters of Success. And like I mentioned, the host of her podcast, Unyielded, Thriving No Matter What. Bobbi received her associate's degree in psychology from College of DuPage. Sorry, Bobbi. Her Bachelor of Arts degree from DePaul University, and her master's in positive organizational development and change from Weatherhead School of Management at Case Western Reserve University. Bobbi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes. And we're going to get going. But when I saw DePaul, I spent a short time in Chicago coaching a basketball team down south, about 45 minutes south of the city. But I love me some deep dish. So we got to go there real quick before we even get into things. Are you Lou Malnati's, Giordano's, Gino's? Who do you like? And do you even like pizza?
Love pizza. It's one of the things I miss most about Chicago. For deep dish pizza, a little tiny joint called Pequod's Pizza is the best for deep dish pizza. Absolutely the best.
Pasho, you see how she throws that down? She's throwing Lou Malnati's, just not even in the same league, and she came strong with that. And I love how you said for deep dish pizza.
Yes.
I was listening to a show in preparation for this. I think you were a guest on somebody else's show, and you were talking about pizza and how maybe Colorado doesn't have great pizza, but I don't know if you're aware, but C4 Leaders, we get down on some pizza and we go sourdough. We just released some videos on our website with what we're doing. And I know you checked it out, but you probably haven't seen those videos. Make sure you watch them on a full stomach because you will be hungry if not. And oh man, this can be a great show. So Let's get in. Bobbi, we always start with the thought of the day. And this is probably my favorite part of the show, because after researching you, I say, what quote really speaks to me about our guest? And I wish I was better at pronouncing people's names. And this is a Polish-French last name, but it's Curie, Marie Curie. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she was a Polish and French physicist, the first woman to win the Nobel Prize and the only person to win it twice in 2 different fields. So no pressure. Here we go. Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more, so we may fear less. Why would I pick that quote for you, Bobbi, and just share your thoughts on it?
Well, I'm guessing that you picked that quote because of some of the challenges that I've overcome in my life. I've had people say to me that they're like, oh, you're kind of fearless, or, you're a risk taker. And when they say that, I turn to see who's standing behind me, because I don't think of myself that way. It's just I don't know, finding your way through it so that you can keep going. And I love the piece around understanding. It's understanding it, because I think the more that we understand, the more that the fear itself is kind of discharged, and we can navigate it much better. So that's my guess.
Yes, and that's a very good guess. Right on the point. We're going to explore this quote a whole bunch more. And I was talking. I had a friend. Met up with him yesterday in Dixon, which is a town over, and his son was playing tennis, and I was talking to his son at the end, and I said, man, if I could give anybody one gift, and it could be $1 billion, I mean, anything in the whole world, and this is the honest truth, the one gift that I would give would be self-awareness. Mm-hmm. And you kind of spoke to that word understand. And I just think that's a gift that we can all give ourselves, is just kind of sit and just be and think, and life gets going so fast that sometimes just finding that space just to understand more, so we may fear less. Unless we take the time to do that, we keep living in that bath of just stress and busyness. And so I know in this episode, with your expertise, you're going to help our listeners figure out how to slow life down and understand more, so we may fear less. So let's get going. I'm gonna jump right to it. For the listeners, when we're hosting a guest, we send out a information sheet, and on this sheet, Bobbi put down some interesting things that I just want to explore. And she had 3 key things to share: I am identity, the power of yet, and painstaking effort and monitoring progress for motivation. So Bobbi, you start and share whatever you want with that, but I want to get to the good stuff right out of the gate.
All right. Well, let's start with the I am identity. And because you'd asked, what are our essential life ingredients? And that came to mind immediately, because, it's based in science, but more importantly, it's based on an experience I had. So back in 2003, I collapsed. It turned out, it was a 10-year journey altogether to get back to my full health and being an athlete again. And about, 4 or 5 months in, I had a doctor, and they did all kinds of tests. And he told me, he's like, Bobbi, goes, I think based on what we understand, you have about a 3% chance of recovering, like a full recovery. And sometimes maybe I'm not the smartest, or maybe I'm just stubborn, because my first question back to him was, okay, but when can I go for a run again? And he just looked at me, and he shook his head, and he was so kind. He was so compassionate. And he said, Bobbi, he said, I think you might have to accept that your days of being an athlete are over. And there's just something in me that I thought, no, I can't accept that those days of being an athlete are over. I've always been an athlete. I will find a way to always be an athlete. Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't understand that I was sick. I mean, I couldn't, there was a time I couldn't even brush my own teeth. That's how crushing the fatigue was. I mean, I couldn't stand up long enough to take a shower. I mean, it was bad. I didn't misunderstand that, but that I am an athlete. And I think that's what led me over the 10-year recovery to continue to do the work that I needed to do and not give up hope. Because that's what I had to hold on to. And when I mentioned the science, I think what's really important about that is I didn't know this. So this was dumb luck. Now I know it because I got my graduate degree afterwards. There's something called the ICT, Intentional Change Theory. And it was discovered by or created by Richard Boyatzis. He started studying this when he was a student at Yale back in the 1960s. Richard was one of my professors when I was at Case. And the ICT is a way that it's proven that it's a way people can change in desirable and sustainable ways. It begins with the ideal self. What is that vision we have of ourselves? And it can be who we are at our core. It can be those enduring strengths, our values, and it can just be like a vision of what we want to become. But part of my core identity was, and still is, I am an athlete. And that's what was so powerful around, tapping into that. And again, I think it was stubbornness that made me tap into it. But in retrospect, I'm like, wow, that's why it was so important. So that's the first one.
Man, there's a lot to unpack. And crazy. So the day that you collapsed, were you, when you woke up, was it just a typical day and you were like, hey, the night before I'm kind of good. I have my regular energy and everything's fine. And then all of a sudden I collapse, or what happened?
Yeah. So the day I collapsed, March 6th of 2003, we've all heard that analogy, right? If you put a frog in boiling water, it jumps out. If you put it in there and you slowly heat it up, it boils. Classic frog in cold water that was heated up. Because really, Jeff, it was like a 10-month journey where I was an entrepreneur. We'd moved to Portland, Oregon. We'd started a business. We moved there 2 weeks before September 11th happened. The economy tanked. All the things that entrepreneurs take on, right? Working too hard, getting out of balance. You said not having time, the business of life, all those things. I stopped taking care of myself. I stopped eating as well as I knew I was supposed to. I would skip workouts because I was too busy. And so what happened is over time, somewhere in there, I had a bout of mono that went undiagnosed, and I didn't stop to take care of it. Like I just pushed through it. That's what I've always done, is I push through things. And so like over those 10 months, things would happen. Like I was too tired to stand up to take a whole shower. So I'd sit down in the shower. About a third of my hair fell out, but I didn't register. I was too tired to brush my teeth. So what I did is I took a kitchen stool up to our bathroom and I put it next to our vanity so that I thought I was being so clever, so I could lean onto the vanity and rest all my weight on my forearms because I couldn't sit up. And so I'd do that. And then all I had to do was lift my forearm to brush my teeth. I mean, it was, if anyone had woken up at any point and that's how you were, you would have went immediately to a doctor. But because it happened slowly, it just didn't register. And so the day when I collapsed, I made my way into the bathroom and I sat down on the stool, by my vanity, and I could not move my forearm anymore. And that was it. Like I couldn't move anymore. And so that's when it finally occurred to me, you might have a problem, So it was, and what it ended up being, and it took a long time to figure this out, was, if your adrenal glands, right? There's adrenal fatigue, exhaustion, and collapse. I was in collapse. And actually it was in late 2006 or early 2007 that we did the test again. And by this time I'd moved back to Chicago. And I'll never forget it. I was in my doctor's office getting the results. And I remember he looked at me, he looked at the results, he looked back at the, at me, and he said, well, we're going to have to do this test again. And I said, why? And he said, because these results can't be right. And I said, why? And he said, because you wouldn't be alive. They were so low, like so low. And so we did the test again, and the results came back exactly the same. And I'll never forget it. When he told me that, he's like, I can't understand why you're alive. I can't explain it, but you are, and we know where we're starting from. And so it was not an immediate thing. It took a good 10 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
So crazy just hearing that, because it was hard to find out all this information. But then I'm going to read our thought of the day again with what you just shared. Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so we may fear less. And I just take that second part. Now is the time to understand more so we may fear less, as you already went through those challenges and now you understand them, and now you share your expertise with people all over the world. Thank you for doing that. But I want to jump in. There's so much other stuff I want to unpack on that I am identity, because Mike and I are former athletes, and I think you're always an athlete when you were, whatever you've done. I mean, it's always in status. But we played college basketball at the University of San Francisco. I don't know if I can really consider myself an athlete so much now. I mean, I exercise every day and so on and so forth. But I want to get to you because that was such a statement, and I'm just going to ask it. Is it that you're an athlete that is a big part of your identity, or is it the words that represent what that athlete is in you? And I don't know if you're following what I'm asking you, because I just, in hearing your story, I just see somebody that's running a marathon and hits that 20-mile mark, and that's you now being on your elbow, trying to brush your teeth and just fighting through, of someone that has persistence and perseverance. And so, one of the things that C4 Leaders does is try and help, when we have people come to our gatherings, is help people focus on what are their essential ingredients. And so that we can fill in a lot of words in there. Is it beliefs? Is it values? Is it your moral compass? Whatever that is. But back to my question to you is, I am identity. I am an athlete. Could you put in some other words in that space that go along with you being an athlete, or that's it? I mean, there's definitely not a right or wrong answer. It's just an interesting statement to me.
Yeah. I think that, well, and that's not the entire piece of like my ideal self, right? That's one aspect of it. I think it's what it meant to me. Because at one point, I mean, and let's be honest, like no one's going to mistake me for an Olympic hopeful. Okay. But I just, from the time I was a kid, playing sports, being athletic, being active, it was just a piece of who I was. In my early 20s, I was diagnosed with asthma, and I'd never been a runner up until that point. And I remember I was talking to my pulmonologist, and I said, I didn't want to be on all these asthma medications all the time. And I said, what can I do? Because the lungs are a muscle. And he said, it'd be really hard, but you could start running. And we had this whole plan. It was very methodical of how I'd start running. And I always had to have my rescue inhaler with me. And that's why I started running. And I got to the point where I was running 8 miles every other day in under an hour. And I loved it. Like, I just loved it. And that, really got my asthma under control and everything. So the thought of not being able to do that was, it was just hard to conceive, and now I do stuff that I probably couldn't have done before I got sick. Like, I grew out cross country skiing. We live in Grand Lake because we're 2 minutes from the Nordic Center. That's how much I love cross country skiing. I was disappointed last year. I only made it out 77 times because we didn't have great snow. The year before that, it was 97 times. My goal is, I hope we have good enough snow that I can make it over 100 times, because I just love it. It's just I just love it. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does for sure. And yeah, it's a tricky, I'm going to move on because I think just being a former athlete, I think it's tricky when we solely identify ourselves as an athlete, especially when we're probably younger, because, I was watching, I don't have cable, and we were just on vacation, and I was probably a couple years old, but the New York Jets, they had something on some ESPN 10 or whatever it is. They got channels now, and it was really cool. But there was this linebacker, a young guy trying to make the team, incredible athlete, but he had bad knees, and this young man, and I could just tell I am an athlete was what his whole identity was. And I just like, man, there's so much more to this young man. But it's hard when we just put everything into that one kind of space. So but I know, go ahead, Bobbi.
Yeah. You wouldn't have just one aspect of it, right? There's a lot of different things that play into it. And the I am statement can also work in opposite. Think about some of the things we tell ourselves that maybe aren't true or that are limiting. And then if we believe those, that leads us in a different way. So it's not singular, not at all, to your point. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say, and then I know my pastor wants to chomp in. We have this cue when he touches his glasses. That's like, be quiet. I have something I want to say. Pastor, hold on to it for another second. I saw it. I gave it back to you. But now I'm probably losing this out. I'm a weird guy, Bobbi. And in our family, I have two beautiful girls, Capriana and Aaliyah. Capriana's 25, Aaliyah's 23. And we kind of joke, and it's probably not a good thing. And I really can't believe I'm getting ready to share this on the air and on this show, but I'll joke around and I'll say, Mama, and that's my wife, is a good worker. She's a good reader, all these I am kind of statements, but really in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, well, someone who is a good reader is really these values, beliefs of, really you're a lifelong learner. Really, you want to understand knowledge is power. Really, you have all these other parts of you that kind of go along with what we're saying of this I am, that are just so much bigger than that one statement. So I think we're definitely on the same page. Pastorito, welcome, baby. What do you got?
Oh, I get to speak? Wow. I don't know if I'm used to this. Our little sign, Bobbi, just so you know, I've broken many pairs of glasses trying to get his attention. And wow. First of all, 97 times going out and skiing.
Yeah.
Man, that's cold. I'm in Southern California. I don't know if I could live like that, but man, that's awesome. And I just want to say, I think part of being an athlete, and I don't consider myself an athlete anymore by any means, but I think we enjoy challenges. We take challenges seriously, and whatever it is, if someone tells us we can't or it's not going to happen, it could be a coach or anyone tells you can't do that. Part of something inside of us says, no, let me show you. I can do that. So I think that might be a big help for these challenges that we do encounter.
Yeah, I love that, Mike. I think that is a big deal. And now I've cracked the code. I understand how you guys are communicating. I didn't have that beforehand.
Oh yeah. So when you see it and he doesn't, can you just jump in and let him know? I'd appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, just slap him.
I'll do my best.
Yeah. All right. So let's get in. Do we want to go to the power of yet now, or or painstaking effort? Which one kind of slides better?
I'll tell you what, the painstaking effort does, because it's related to the health journey. So when my one doctor that I finally found, it was 18 months in, and I finally found a doctor who said, I can help you, which was amazing. And then we got to a point where she said, okay, I think you're well enough that you can start trying to go for walks, because it was so incredibly hard. And my first walk was to the end of the driveway, which was about 20 feet long. Right. And I was drenched in sweat. And then eventually I made it to the end of the block. We were 4 houses from the end of the block. And I remember I had to sit down on the curb and rest. before I could make it back. And one day I made it up to 6 blocks away. And there was a church there, and I had to sit on the steps of the church. And it was in October. And I remember feeling really discouraged because I thought, oh my gosh, I used to be able to run 8 miles every other day. And here I am struggling, drenched in sweat to walk 6 blocks. And that's when it occurred to me, it didn't matter what I used to be able to do. What mattered is, what am I going to do every single day that's going to lead me at least in a direction I believe in, that I think will lead to something, something good. And there was, the collapse is what's dramatic and what the doctor said, but really the story is about that painstaking effort and then looking at the progress to stay motivated. Because what happened after that is, from that day forward, I thought, okay, so if I can go for a walk 6 blocks every day, that's great. If I add 10 feet in, that's progress. And that kept me motivated. One of the darkest days of the journey, because it took a long time. One of the darkest days, I was at a health club. We'd moved back to Chicago, and I was on a treadmill, and I was walking a 30-minute mile. I used to be able to run 4 miles in under 30. So it was like, oh my goodness. And I checked my heart rate, and it was 170. And I was like, how can I? It's still such a deep hole. And I remember I got off the treadmill and I was trying not to cry. And there was this one of the worker guys came over, and he said, what's going on? And I told him, and he's like, but Bobbi, you have to focus on, you're here, you're doing the work, you're making progress. He said, you keep doing this, in a month, that heart rate's going to be down. And he said, and he was right. That's what you have to focus on, is that the effort. And sometimes it feels like it's so hard. And that applies in a lot of different ways, right? If you're an entrepreneur, if you're starting a nonprofit, there's a lot of work that isn't fun, but you got to do it. And then the key is noticing progress. This is a basic thing in coaching. Like, when you can see your progress, you stay motivated. Dan Pink wrote about it in Drive, the surprising truth about what motivates us. When we can see our progress, we stay intrinsically motivated. And it's one of the key mistakes that I see people make. They don't look at their progress. They just see the end goal and they're like, well, I'm not there yet. It's okay. If you're making progress towards the goal, that's what we have to focus on.
I love that, man. There's so much to unpack there. And I'm going to go backwards and then we're going to go forward. I came up with this equation several years ago, and I was never very good in math, and my Pasha knows it. That's a funny story. When we first met, we had to go take our assessment test at USF, and so there was an English assessment and then a math assessment, and Mike was very smart and very good in math, and I'm not. And so I get in there and I take the math assessment, and I'm done in like 2 minutes. And Mike's looking like, what the heck is going on? As soon as I got to multiplication, that was kind of a wrap. So, but I did come up with this equation, and it's E squared does not equal S plus H. E squared equals decrease F and P. And what I mean by this is expectations and entitlements, that's the squared, does not equal success and happiness. Expectations and entitlements lead to a decrease, focus, and performance. And so many times, because Mike's a coach for basketball. I've been a coach for 21 years for basketball. And it's, in dealing with, I don't want to throw the big P out there, but the parents and even the players, it's when we come with the expectation and entitlement that it's like all bets are off. And so to hear the advice that you got when you were on the treadmill of just to notice progress and just to be in that moment and to appreciate that you took 10 more steps, and then now getting to understand who you are and how much of a competitor you are, to just keep staying. All right, well, the next time I'm taking 11. Okay. And then I'm going to celebrate that baby, that extra one. And then, okay, next day is going to be 12. And just to keep moving forward. Yeah. So many times, what I'm going to jump right to my question. What advice do you have for your clients who have like big picture dreams, but can get overwhelmed and not be in the moment of realizing that they've come so far? And then that the wind gets taken out of our sail. We start to lose hope, get discouraged, and then it's so much more work. But what advice do you have for those clients?
Yeah. So a couple things. First of all, this is so much easier if I had a flip chart, but we'll just go with it, right? What you want to do is you want to take a sheet of paper. You want to draw a line near the bottom of the paper, straight across, or as much of a straight line as you can draw. In my case, I'm not very good, but it's okay. So you got it. So that's your baseline. That's your starting point, right? And this is if we're changing or whatever. So then what you do is you kind of go up, right? You go up a little bit. And then when we're changing, when we're learning something new or whatever, typically there's a little bit of a backslide, so then the line comes down a little bit. Then we go up. And so let's say you go up 2 inches, backslide half inch, go up another 2 inch, backslide a half inch. So that's our progress over time, and you can chart it. And the thing that we have to keep in mind is when we have those backslides, if you look, you're never back to your baseline. You're consistently increasing the distance between your baseline and where you are. Backsliding can be a very normal part of the process. So that's number one. The second thing I'd say is setting up number one, being intentional about noticing your progress. Most people aren't. It's great to notice the goal, but you got to notice the progress. My husband and I were in business together, something that we started, oh my gosh, years ago. We called it wins of the week. And every Friday we would sit down, still do, what were our wins this week that are relative to our bigger goal? And we celebrated those, because if you don't, you get so caught up in the busyness of life that you don't even notice them. So we liked that idea, the wins of the week. Another way to go about it is have your milestones and break those down into much closer goals so that I'm on and that doesn't mean that our big goal, that we can't adjust it, but those milestones kind of help us stay focused and on track, and that we can see the progress.
I love it. And it just goes back to self-awareness too, of kind of knowing where you're at and being intense. Now we got you all shook.
I saw it.
Okay, I'm going to be quiet. Come on, my partner. Good stuff this show, baby. Let's go.
We got to switch up our signals now. She's on to us.
I noticed it. I'm so excited.
Great self-awareness.
First of all, man, what an incredible display of mathematics by my Pasha. I didn't think you had it in him. And I didn't follow you along at first, but you got there, man. I'm proud of you. And Bobbi, I just had a question. Are you more excited with the thousands of clients that you have? Are you more excited with their progress, or when you were going through your challenges with your progress? What really got you motivated and got you incredibly proud and happy?
Probably my clients' progress. When I think about my progress, it was in some ways, and I don't want to diminish it. That's what I needed to do. And I can look back and say, wow, that was, 10 years, that's a long time. But that's just what I needed to do. I get really excited when I see the progress of my clients, or I've done some basically volunteer work with leadership high school students in leadership, and I see them go out and do great things. That's what keeps me going. Absolutely.
I love it. I think I would answer that question the same way you did. Yeah, it just feels good. The last job that I had was being a nursing professor at a community college. And so seeing my students I taught first semester. And so seeing a student who probably never been in the hospital themselves, with COVID, everything got fast forwarded. So we were in the hospital with our students after 3 weeks of education. And they were an intense 3 weeks. But then to go in, and it was at UC Davis Medical Center, which is a level 1 trauma center. You're taking care of people that are sick. And so now I'm going in with a student who's first time stepping in a hospital, and they have to take care of somebody that's really sick. And to see them be at the bedside and working on the things that we just spent 3 weeks, just tip of the iceberg stuff, but doing it. Yeah, there's no better feeling than seeing them go through, be nervous, shaken, but then get through it, and to come out of the room. And I always had a technique that I would use, and I still use when I'm talking to anybody, is give me 4 things that went well and 1 thing that you would like to edit. And so many times we're so hard on ourselves. It's easy to go to the 4 things that we want to edit. But really programming our brain to say, let me look at this. Yeah, I did do some great things in there. And if we could just continue to help, young people get in that space, and that's where we're focused as a nonprofit, is really trying to help with this COVID stuff. I think the youth in our country are going to struggle here these next few years if the adults don't step up. Because we have a better understanding and help them understand that they don't need to be fearful. We're here for them to make mistakes and to learn and grow together. We got work to do. But let's move on to the power of yet. Is it time for that, or you're running?
Sure,
Bobbi.
Yeah, the power of yet. Okay, so this one, wow, this one goes way back, and it might be one of my favorites. When I was 6, I was diagnosed with speech problems. Actually, it was a speech pathologist. He told my mom, he said, she has catastrophic speech problems. She'll never speak correctly, and it will likely be a lifelong disability. And my mom, no formal training. And here's the thing, I did have really bad speech problems. He was not delusional. But my mom, when she heard that, she hugged me. And she whispered into my ear, she said, we're not going to listen to him, because you never let someone else tell you what you can or cannot do. That's also part of who I am. That's a big part of one of my stories. And so over the years, she worked with me. And there were times, I was in my 20s before I stopped thinking of myself as someone with speech problems. And there were times where I would struggle to say a word. Like for some reason, I could not say the word milk. Saved my life. Couldn't say it. Couldn't say that LK sound. Don't know why. And I'd get frustrated and I'd say, oh, I can't say that. And Mom would say, no, you can't say it yet. It's such a tiny little word, and it has such power in it, because what that meant is if I keep doing the work, if I keep practicing, I will eventually get there. And again, didn't know any of this, didn't know how it's connected to science, but now that we know who Carol Dweck is and her amazing work on growth mindset, that's at the heart of growth mindset, right? I was not fixed in a place. It wasn't like, and I actually have 3 fundamental beliefs, and this is tied to one of them. The future can be changed. Don't care where we're starting, the future can be changed, right? So the power of yet, I learned that from my mom, no doubt. If you think about someone who had influence on my life, she's one of the first ones that come to mind. So that's the power of yet.
Man, yeah, that's incredible. And I just love how you give that little pause and then you say yet. And I can just see you working with your clients, and they're sharing things that they can't do, and then you sneak in there yet. That's just powerful. And then to hear your mom just had your back right out of the gate, and love that story of she whispered into your ear, we ain't listening to that knucklehead, and go do our thing. That's incredible. And so you led to it that you have 3 fundamental beliefs, and we'll throw those into the show, Life's Essential Ingredients. So same thing. What are those fundamental beliefs? And the first one, you said the future can be changed. I love that. If you want to expand on it, great. If not, go into number 2.
Okay. So basically, no matter where we are, because sometimes my clients will get really stuck on, here's where I am. that's just where you are right now. Doesn't mean we can't change the story in the future. So number one, the future can be changed. Second thing is you can change your future. You don't have to have someone come rescue you. It's great if we have help, but you can be your own hero, right? You can make it happen. And the third thing, which really isn't surprising when you know the rest of my story, is that you don't have to wait. You can learn what you need to learn along the way. And I've coached so many people, and I know that if you're committed to changing, if you're committed to learning something new, these are just skills, they're behaviors, it's knowledge, maybe mindset. These things can be learned, right? And sometimes the mistake I see people make is that they think, well, I have to have all the answers. I have to have all the skills before I get started. That's impossible. The thing is, start and learn what you need to learn along the way, because it can be learned, which kind of relates back to the yet, I think, too.
Yeah, no, that's, yeah, I love that. And yeah, I do think, so many times we want to wait just till life is perfect to have kids, have just enough money, to think that we can, get into a house, whatever it is. And I love just going along the way, and Mike and I took this class with my wife to learn how to make pizza in Napa. And this guy, Anthony, I forget his last name, but I don't remember a whole bunch other than we had a great time. But I remember the first thing that he said, that he gets paid to sell his mistakes. And what I interpreted that as, he's made so many, and now people can benefit from them because he's just learning along the way, and he's found out a way to capitalize financially with developing his expertise on his journey. And so many times, if we're not careful, the journey will never get started.
That's right.
We're just waiting for everything to be lined up, and then all kinds of wheels just can fall right off the bus, and who knows where the bus even goes.
Right.
So yeah, I love those three beliefs that you have. Man, so you are a mover and a shaker, and you got a lot going on. Just on the personal side, where do you find your inspiration for just each day? Do you have a routine or something that kind of gets you focused and gets you ready to have an amazing day?
That's a good question. It kind of varies. Number one for me is connecting to, why do I do what I do? Right. The bigger piece of that, because I think, I had my mom, and I also he was a teacher in high school that his name was Mr. Jordan, made a tremendous difference in my life. And so connecting to that's what I want to give to others. I think that's part of it. As far as a routine, I've recently really added in a lot more margin to my life.
I love that.
Because I think, you talked about it near the beginning, Jeff, when we're so caught up in the busyness, we don't have any time for self-awareness. We don't have any time for reflection. We just hit the ground running, and we're not being intentional. One of the things, a practice I guess I started back when I was sick. Cause I'm one of those people that, I think I can, break through anything, right? I can have a really long to-do list, and I can get it all done. And when I was sick, I was like, I can't do that. So I started a practice, and I continue it to this day. Before I get up out of bed, I do this in my sleep. No, if I get up out of bed, I ask myself the question, if I can only do one thing today, what should that be? And it has an amazing way of focusing my attention on what's really important, and instead of like, what's the 10 things or the 12 things or the 20 things, what is the most important thing for me to do? And then I take a few minutes too, and I just appreciate like what's around me. Like we have 2 puppy dogs. And so when there's quiet, it's like, ooh, I always think, I've got 30 seconds of quiet before all chaos breaks out. But then also appreciating the chaos. Like, so just finding those moments where you can really be present versus rushing by. And I'll tell you guys, that hasn't always been a strength of mine. It's something that's taken a lot of intention, because life is really short. So I guess those are some of my random thoughts there.
I love it. And I'm getting quotes on some t-shirts and some more gear for us, because we're going to start to get out a little bit. And we had a guest on the show a few weeks ago. Her episode dropped, and I forget where she got it. And then I was looking at it and I forgot, but there's somebody wrote a book, but it's going to be on one of our shirts. Do less, better.
Yeah.
And, at C4 Leaders, we can't do a whole bunch, and we're not good in math, but we can get down on these 4 C's, and help people see each other and feel seen and heard, and leave with their stomach full and their heart full of love. And I love, how you're saying, hey, I'm just going to focus on just the one thing that I could do. And then you start to look at some of the books that are out there on habits and trying to set yourself up for success. And the more you read BJ Fogg and James Clear and some of these great authors who do a lot of research on habits, you got to keep it simple,
Yeah.
And that's why this is just speaking so much when Christine shared that on the show. Just do less, better. It's powerful. It's powerful. And
I love that.
And life is so crazy. And I have this other quote. It's too long, and I'm not going to get it. And it's from a Benedictine nun, and I'm going blank on her name, but it's from Jay Shetty's book that I read over the few months ago. But she talked about, we all have a gift, and if you just allow yourself to realize, you probably have 1 or 2 gifts, but it's great to let other people share their gift with you. And it just goes back into, man, what happens if we just all do less, but do it better? And then just to do that better for the betterment of this world. Man, that's I'm getting goosebumps just from that right there. But let's go back. You said one other key thing that I think I would love for you to share, because it's one of those words that gets tossed out all the time, being present. What tips would you give to our listeners and to your clients of, you're sitting down, I'm your client, and I got my phone, and we're supposed to be having a session, and I'm just got a lot going on, and you already know that I'm not present. How would you help me kind of reframe my energy to come back and be present, so I can, share my gift?
Yeah. That's not easy to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a great app called Healthy Minds, and it's developed by a couple of researchers, neuroscientists, and it's a great thing for people to tune into. And it can, they can be like as little as 5 minutes. So number one is getting some kind of tool that will help us. And then there's also the awareness piece. When I was doing the leadership work with the high school kids, and then also I've done this with managers too, there's an exercise and it's kind of a setup. One group knows the story and the other one doesn't. So the one group, they're supposed to tell something that's really important to them, like something really personal. They're supposed to share something. The other group, they've been instructed they're not to listen. They're supposed to look at their phone. They're just like tuned out. And it's to show how it feels when we're tuned out. And it's one of the most powerful exercises that I've done. And people, like even the high school kids, they're like, I never realized that when my parents are trying to talk to me, or my friends are trying to talk to me, and I've got my phone and I'm looking at stuff, never realized what that felt like. So that can be interesting, but it's just really making that choice of, I'm going to choose to be present in this moment, because otherwise I'm choosing to miss something. And I think that's what we miss. We don't understand that's the choice.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point it does come down to that choice.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, and thank you for that great advice. The last thing, we're getting ready to wrap this up. C4, as you know, is an explosive and is powerful, and lighten the fuse is really, for us, is actions that we take to share those our values, those 4 C's. So I'm going to ask you, or 1, 2, 3, it doesn't matter. But what's a call out to the listeners of an action that they could take to develop their current version of their best self? If there's one thing, they say, hey, start with this first. What would that be?
I would say that it is, and this applies in a lot of different ways, but just start. Like, don't wait for the perfect plan. And as far as something actionable with the, we talked about learn your way forward, because this to me is part of just start. There's 3 A's that go with learn your way forward. Act. So that's why just starting is so important. The second thing is to assess. So you take the action and then you intentionally think about, how did it go? What would I change? What would I edit, to use your words earlier? What would I continue doing? But to assess it. And then the third A is to adapt. But when we do those 3 things, that's how we learn our way forward. And that's how, when I say that anything we need to learn, we can learn along the way, that's how we do it. And that's how we continue to move forward, towards whatever goal we might have, if that's the best version of ourselves or whatever goal we have in front of us.
Man, I love that. Learn our way forward. The AAA, Pasho. AAA, act, assess, and adapt. And so I'm just, my mind, I just need to keep things simple for me. So I love, just like the 4 C's, that's, give me 5, that's too much for me. 3 A's is good. Act, assess, adapt. I love that.
It's easy.
Yeah. All right. Hey, we are going to send you a shirt.
Nice.
And it's a very cool shirt and one of my favorites. And after listening to you for this past hour, I'm deeply sincere about saying thank you for coming on our show and sharing this time with us and helping our listeners take some essential ingredients from you. And they know where to find you. And so the shirt that Mike and I will send out to you, I'm sure you're familiar with the amazing Dr. Maya Angelou.
Oh, yeah.
And so we have a Still I Rise, which falls in to our chemistry definition, which I define as developing trust in yourself to bring and receive value from the connections in your life. Nice. And so I think when we can go through life and get knocked down like you did, and have that 10-year process to go through one step at a time, you're a riser. You're a riser, period. And so, when you wear this shirt, you kind of got to put your chest out a little bit, though. Because it's to me, they have such crazy deep meaning, and there's so many stories behind that shirt.
Yeah.
And, hopefully that speaks to you. Again, thank you for coming on the show. I know my Pasho's been chomping at the bit. He changed things up. I saw him kind of pulling at his ear a little bit. Pashito, get your closing remarks and
Yeah, the reason I heard a noise and I realized my son is taking his bass guitar lesson on Zoom right now. So I was like, what is that noise? It's like his 3rd lesson, I think. I was like, what is that? I couldn't tell. Just that, Marco, when you listen, it sounded good. Bobbi, I just want to thank you. And you probably aren't aware of this, but your story is inspirational for all of us. I thank you for sharing it. And I can only think how fortunate your clients are to have such a wonderful coach as you are, willing to share that experience and help them through it. Thank you. And thank you for being on our show. And forget the t-shirt, we got to give her a parka, Pasho, saying that it's cold out in Colorado, 97 days snow. She needs something big.
I like the t-shirt idea. I love that. You guys are gonna make me cry between the two of you.
Thank you, Bobbi, because the C4 Leaders, it's 100% volunteer run organization. Mike and I donate all of our time. Everything we do is to hustle. When we do these events, it's all free 99. I just, it's not out yet, but I authored a children's book called Pizza Day, We Rise Together. We're going to be going out to the schools and doing these events and doing some professional development. Everything, again, is free. And so, Pasho, we don't have the money, baby, for a parka. Parka's expensive. And I'm so glad that you said, oh, yeah, I'll take that shirt. Parka's not going to have the meaning. It's going to keep her warm, but this Still I Rise is like the sitting around the fire with like, she's just going to have so much love and pride that, she doesn't need any parka.
I'll take the t-shirt any day.
All right. Well, my Pasho's. Go for it, Pasho.
I just say, you're just trying to get away from getting her a parka. Come on. You can make it happen. Come on, Pasho.
All right. With that said, listeners, we do not have any parkas that we're sending out to anybody, but we definitely got some shirts. Whoever listens in on this episode, if you would like a shirt, you got to email me, Jeff, at C4 Leaders, and the first person that does that after this episode drops, we'll send you out a shirt. Bobbi, we cannot thank you enough. Listeners, we cannot thank you enough for tuning in to another episode of Life's Essential Ingredients. We had a lot of fun. Bobbi dropped a lot of knowledge on us. Again, you can find Bobbi. Reach out to her. She's in Grand Lake, Colorado. www.bobbikaahler.com. She also has her own podcast, Unyielded. Make sure you check that out. And Bobbi, you have any last things that you would like to say?
No, I so appreciate you guys having me on, and it's been a pleasure. And I'm glad I know the secret code now.
All right. With that, thank you, listeners. Everybody take care. We out. Pashito, we got to drop the boom on them. Boom. That just happened.